I just don't want to. That's right. You have an inner brat. We can call it our critter brain. We can call it anything you want, but that inner brat can jump right on in and keep you stuck, and it's sabotaging. Oh, that inner voice that says, I don't want to, I'm not going to, is what I call your inner brat. And we're going to talk about taming it and understanding why it exists in the first place. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori, and I am so excited that you are here. It is starting to get warmer outside. I cannot believe that the months are going flying by. I say it to you every week. It is just seriously getting faster and faster, I swear. But yeah, I mean, we're here. We're in the heart of spring up here in the north. I know you're in the heart of fall down in the southern hemisphere. I am so excited that you are here. And now it is time for you to sort of regroup, right? I like to regroup every month, every bi-month, every quarter. And definitely around this time, you know, you're far enough removed now from all of the things you said you were going to do for your new year and blah, blah, blah. And you may have run into the fact that you just don't want to. And the reality is I just don't care that you just don't want to. And nor should you, right? Wanting to is completely irrelevant. It's about what's going to be good for your tomorrow self. Over on Patreon, there is going to be a fabulous worksheet that is going to help you with your self-awareness. So this podcast, every podcast is really a self-awareness podcast, but this one is going to have you dig a little deeper with your self-awareness because you can't change anything. You can't improve on it until you have some self-awareness. So you got to be self-aware that you have this in order to, acknowledgement, and then you can change it, right? But you got to be honest with it. And your inner brat is going to push back. Oh, that inner brat is the voice that goes, you can't tell me what to do. That's right. I'm just not going to do it because I just don't want to. Well, it's going to be up to you to not let that inner brat voice even come into play in the first place. So let's talk about why that exists in the first place. So the inner brat houses your impulse desires, right? So think of inner brat as the id part of your ego. So you have the id, you have the ego in the middle that like has the super ego and the id playing nicely together. And then we have the super ego, which goes into morals and all of these other things, right? So I want you to think of your inner brat as the id part of your ego. Because what happens is that inner brat, there is a resistance to self-discipline. And you're like, well, that's kind of dumb because I want to be disciplined. You do. And there's a big part of you that does, but it's easier for you to not do it, right? Really think about it. You can look around the house and you go, okay, I have all these things to do. And you look and you go, oh God, this sucks. I don't really want to do it. Because inner brat is a massive, massive driver of procrastination. Because there's this little part of you that even though you know that you want to do it, it goes, yeah, I don't want to, and we're not gonna. It's seriously, it's like a 3-year-old brat, which is why we're calling it the inner brat. And there is a resistance to self-discipline because that self-discipline is almost authoritative, right? If you have self-discipline, it goes, hey man, I don't really care if you want to do this or not. This is what you got to do. That's what self-discipline is saying to you. And inner brat goes, nope, I don't wanna. And so that's why those two things go hand in hand. And literally that inner brat is resistant to self-discipline. So now what happens is you teeter-totter in your brain of knowing, hey, I really want to succeed at this, or I really want to improve in this, and I want to be consistent. Because consistency is self-discipline. Lack of consistency and not wanting to do something is your inner brat / id. Okay, because there's no instant gratification there. Because you keep going into instant gratification, even though you tell yourself, all the therapy speak. I'm going to therapy speak myself into knowing what I'm supposed to say to myself. I have to be consistent. Yeah, I know that you know the words, but if your actions and your words don't align, you have no knowledge. You have words. Knowledge is executing it, and knowing the words is just knowing the words. All right. So why does it happen? Well, there's an evolutionary legacy. It's what it's called, evolutionary legacy. And that means that in evolution, go back into like caveman days. Yeah, man, you need to go out and grab food today. Like it wasn't like, hey, let's go plant some seeds and maybe we'll get some vegetables. No, it was like, man, you need to go out there. You need to kill something and eat it today. Right. So evolutionary wise, it's like, okay, I got to have it right now. And there was a self-preservation that came with that. Well, if I don't have it right now, what am I going to do? I'm going to starve to death, right? But we know evolution. But remember, we're not in caveman days, all right? Because your brain wants pleasure and it does not want discomfort. That is part of evolution. I'm not telling you anything brand new here. Your brain wants pleasure. That's why it always wants the dopamine hit. That's why it wants that instant gratification. That's why it seeks those dopamine hits versus the discomfort of going, okay, well, this kind of sucks, but it's all about mindset too. You don't get to go, well, this kind of sucks that I have to be consistent. Well, then guess what? You're not going to do it. Yeah. Are things going to suck? Let's be honest. Yeah. At times they are. Being consistent kind of does suck. That means you have to show up and you have to do things that aren't going to show you immediate gratification. I see it all the time. I always go into gym stuff because I used to be a trainer, and you go into the gym a couple weeks and maybe you're eating healthier. And you're like, oh my God, I'm not seeing any results. Yeah. You ain't gonna. You might feel a little lighter. You might maybe even see a pound on the scale. Yeah. And guess what? You better be in it for the long haul. You better be willing to do it. But your brain says, this sucks. I would rather go sit and have onion rings because, oh my God, who would not? I'd rather go sit and have onion rings and a margarita in 75-degree weather and listen to music. Well, hell yeah. We all would. But and by the way, you should do that. Oh, you should have those days where you do that. No, you don't want to do it every day. You might want to do it every day. You're not going to do it every day. You want to build in that balance because this is what's going to keep that inner brat from going a little loud, right? It's a reward system. Okay. I'm showing up for myself. How am I going to reward myself? What can I do? Small rewards on this journey. So this way your inner brat does kind of get a little bit of gratification, but what are you doing to earn it, right? Because you want to give that inner brat something to earn. So it happens again because of evolutionary legacy. All right. Now that's also a defense mechanism. That's right. Your inner brat goes, nope, I am going to defend myself. It's a mechanism against stress and perceived discomfort. So if you have a defense mechanism, if you're perceiving something as discomfort, well, guess what? You're going to go into defense mode. And it gives this sense of control. Your inner brat is telling you that you're in control. Yeah, you're in control of what you do and don't do. That's true. But guess what? You're not in control of the moment you give into that inner brat is your successes. Because you're saying, my inner brat is taking over the fact that I don't want to do it. I'm tired. I don't want to. I'm feeling some kind of way. I'd rather do these fun things than anything else. And again, balance. But sometimes you're going to have to suspend that instant gratification. You're going to have delayed gratification, or you're not going to see those results in any possible way that you're doing it. Or you'll see a little bit of benefit and then you'll go backwards. And then you're going to have a hard time because now we're back into not having instant gratification. So the defense mechanism is I don't want to, is giving you this odd sense as though you are in control. The reality is you're letting that control you. In turn, this is going into procrastination. And I'll tell you how this presents here in a little bit. Okay. Because these are important things. And over on Patreon, when we go through that worksheet, you're going to have to see which ones are really triggered and which ones are kind of leading the pack, because you got to know what's leading in order for you to even consider working on it. Now, there are some developmental factors that come into play, right? There's some definite developmental things that happen in childhood. Your childhood experiences, your social experiences, right? How you cope with stressors, right? And the defiance. Are you defiant? And what are your patterns in that? Right? So there could have been a reward system that, hey, if you get this A, and we all did this at some level. Hey, if you get this A+ or whatever, we'll go for ice cream tonight. See the instant gratification. But there's also social things. There are, if I tell you to do this and you don't do it, you're going to be in trouble. Well, now as you grow up, you're like, oh yeah, you can't tell me to do those dishes anymore. I ain't gonna. So you're still holding out this weird sense of control that we didn't have as in a childhood. And let's be honest, we don't have a lot of, that's life. We don't have a lot of control in our childhood. We just don't, right? We're kind of told, this is what you do. This is what you have to do. Do as I do, not as I say. This is expected of you. Now, some of that, not saying in every situation. Some of that is creating a good work ethic. It's creating something to carry us into adulthood. It's not all bad, right? It's not all good, but it's not all bad. So what happens is now when you were told go to bed at this time or do this, or these are the things that you have to do, that control mechanism, going back into the defense mechanism, goes, nope, I am not gonna. So you have to understand that a lot of this also happens from those developmental factors. And when you're aware of it, you have to remind yourself that as much as you want to kind of stick it to them, give it the middle finger, all of these things, what do you deserve tomorrow? Right? Because you're looking for instant gratification today. I don't want to do it today. Well, guess what? A week from now, you're upset with yourself because you still haven't done these things. You're not looking at that delayed gratification itself. You're looking at the today so you can stick it to somebody, some weird thing that you got going on in your head, this game that nobody's playing with you. And that's what's happening. So you got to remember looking at your tomorrow self, what that future self deserves, what your inner child always deserved. Stop letting the id take over to prove some point that you don't have to do it. And a lot of times people don't really care if you meet your goals, right? Like you not doing it isn't proving your point. It's kind of like if somebody spites, and I've told you this before, if somebody helps you in the garden every Sunday, I don't know, and then suddenly they decide, I'm going to prove you, I'm going to hold power and I'm not going to help you. Okay, well, they don't care. They'll just do it themselves, or they'll get somebody else to come over. Like you're not proving a point. You think that you're controlling a narrative, and you're not. You're not. And it's the same thing with yourself. You're doing the same thing, but instead of not going to the garden on Sunday for somebody else, you're not showing up for yourself today. I'm sorry, later. You're realistically not even showing up for yourself today. All right. Now, there's a psychological need that comes into play with your inner brat. And that does kind of go into the developmental factors, right? The need for autonomy. Autonomy is individuality. Competence. Competence is a big piece of this. If you feel as though you're incompetent with something, your inner brat goes, I'll prove you wrong. Now you go into the defense. Remember, we've talked about this a lot, about being defensive. And what will happen too is the relatability. Do you feel relatable to things? Because what you'll do is you think that you're coping with stressors here. And you are not coping with the stressors here. Because you have the need for autonomy. When these ideas of my worth, my value is not being met, you're going to revert to manipulation. Again, withholding something. Right? I'm going to withhold coming over to help you garden on Sundays like I usually do. I'm going to withhold. That's manipulation. That's also your inner brat. Do you know that when you are being manipulative, your inner brat's going, oh yeah, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going home. Like we're on the playground, we're playing kickball. You brought the kickball. You don't like how it's going on. So you're like, oh yeah, F off. I'm taking this ball and I'm going home. Because you think you're in control. Meanwhile, people are like, okay, you're a jerk and we're just going to keep moving and we're not including you anymore. It's not going to work the way you want it to work. Because if you're not getting the validation from others, your inner brat now says, I'm going to prove to you why you need me, why my value is there. I need that validation from you. And the moment that you feel, feelings aren't facts, the moment that you feel as though that's not happening, because quite honestly, you should never rely on anybody else's validation at all. Okay. But when that doesn't happen, your inner brat says, I'm going to manipulate the situation. I'm going to go into victim mentality. Victim mentality and inner brat go hand in hand. They are very, very married. Very married. So when you go into manipulation, that's your inner brat. That's your lack of emotional maturity that's coming into play, because your inner brat is not operating out of maturity. It is not. It is, like I said, operating out of total defensiveness. And then, of course, the other side of that is cognitive biases. Your inner brat will absolutely operate out of cognitive bias because it wants those short-term rewards, right? And then what will happen is you'll go down that wishful thinking. Well, if this happens, then I'll be happy. Or if, I do this and this person will love me. I don't know. Various things like that. Your cognitive biases trigger your inner brat. I believe that Sundays should be family dinner. Okay? This is my cognitive bias. I want family dinner. This is how it has to be. Now, you say, listen, I'm not going to make Sunday dinner, and you're not going to give 87 explanations because we do not overshare. Now, this person is angry. Inner brat is going to come out. Okay, well, that's just fine. You know what? The next time you do a barbecue, I'm not going to come to that. That is inner brat. When someone is keeping score in a relationship, oh, that's fine. Go out with your friends if you want to. But guess what? Tomorrow, I'm going to go out with my friends. Inner brat. If you don't do this, I'm going to do this. If you do this, I'm going to do this. Again, think of your inner brat as a small child who's being a brat. That's essentially what that is. So if you find that people go, if you don't do this, then I'm going to do this, or da-da-da-da-da, know that that's their inner brat. Never take that personal. Don't ever take that personal. Their inner brat is for them to tame, not you. You're not going to appease a child who wants a piece of chocolate, and you're trying to make some negotiations of why chocolate at 1 o'clock in the morning is not healthy. They don't care. Just like their inner brat does not care. Now, how does that present out in your life? So we know that's the whys. So now you know why the inner brat exists. Well, it's going to present to you as negative self-talk. That's right. It is going to, again, take the ball, go home. Your self-talk is doing that to yourself. Yes, it is. You're going to start belittling yourself, in turn going into victimhood. The moment you belittle yourself, call yourself a piece of shit, or I should be doing these things and I'm belittling, you are being a brat to yourself. Oh yeah, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you. You're not doing yourself any favor at all. And you're staying in victimhood, right? No one on this planet has ever belittled and bullied themselves into being a better person, ever, because it's never going to be enough for you. So your brat is telling you how terrible you are, why, again, taking its ball and going home. So it's not just your inner brat acting out in the real world, it's also inside of you. So, and we know that comes from low self-esteem. Low self-esteem, perfectionism, all of those things are brat tendencies. Perfectionism, brat tendencies. We know there's traumas, so understand, but I just trying to let you know how your inner brat comes to play. And it really comes to play, and it's the biggest thing in the room, but not from confidence. So the next time you find yourself in negative self-talk, know that that is your brat that's coming up. Like I said before, procrastination is nothing but your inner brat. Procrastination comes from your inner brat wants it right now. I want ice cream now. Well, we're not going to get ice cream now. Okay, fine. Then I'm not going to do anything. I wanted ice cream right now. Okay? And so procrastination and avoidance is key for victimization, because victimhood comes into play. Again, victim mentality, inner brat, married, will always be married. So if you're avoiding something, in your mind, you're controlling it because, again, why? Your mind doesn't like discomfort. Well, too bad. Too bad. If you're not willing to be uncomfortable, if you're not willing to be the villain, if you're not willing to sit that inner brat down and say, hey, this is not the place for you right now. Be kind, be empathetic to your inner brat, but this is not, no, you don't always have to come to battle. It's okay. Because you got to understand that when you kind of check that inner brat, it actually lets yourself know that you're safe because you're going to make the right decisions for yourself regardless. Okay. And you have to understand there's a fear, there's a sabotage that comes into play, and you're blaming external factors. I don't have the money. I don't have the knowledge. I'm not, I'm not listening correctly. I'm not doing these things. Sabotage is brat. Sabotage is perfectionism. Sabotage is procrastination. And again, what is steering it? It is that instant gratification. It is that I refuse to have delayed gratification. I refuse to do the work. I'm going to just not do it. And I know you know these feelings. I know you do. The moment you say, I don't want to do it, Brat just came to play. And Brat is winning that day. Blame and excuses. Oh God, excuses and blame are one of the biggest things for your brat. Oh my goodness. If you're blaming, like I said, external factors or any other people in your life for your shortcomings, well, this happened in my childhood. I understand and I validate your experiences, but we are here today. And if you keep blaming and keep thinking everybody's out to get you, everybody this, everybody that, you have got to understand that that's your brat. That is lack of emotional maturity, which will come as you're working on yourself, as you tame your brat, as you show up for yourself, as you're presenting yourself by doing things that are uncomfortable, scary, and doing them frequently and letting go of control and letting it be as it is. Okay? Because if you're blaming people for your failures instead of taking responsibility for your own actions, are you showing up for yourself every day? No. Well, we're not going to blame the boss. We're not going to blame the spouse. We're definitely not going to blame our childhood. We're not going to blame how we feel. Stop blaming. That is an excuse. And the moment we make excuse, that's why you need the balance. Remember what I said earlier? Yeah, you know what? This weekend, you don't have to do anything. Go down to the tiki bar, have those onion rings and margaritas. Do it 3 days if you want to, but pick back up on Monday. Or whatever day you're going to do it, give yourself a little reward, but don't live there. Don't live there, right? Because then you're going to start blaming things. But again, when you have a balance, you're able to kind of see it like, okay, well, it's not, I mean, it sucks, but it's not that bad. Because, Friday, I get to go out to onion rings. Clearly, I like onion rings, right? I love onion rings. I love anything. Onion rings, French fries, both together. And so I love a reward system for myself, but I'm not going to blame somebody if I don't get things done. And I'm also not going to blame myself. I'm going to be like, okay, let me kind of step back, mindset here. Did I say I was going to do more than I was capable of doing? Okay, own it. I did that. Not my husband, not the kids, not the weather. No, listen, if you're sick, you're sick. I mean, you can't do anything about that. But just don't give into you're tired. Don't give into I'm depressed today. Yeah. I'm telling you, in my darkest days of depression, I never wanted to leave the sofa. I didn't know if I could even get to the sofa, but I had to get up and go for a walk. I had to, because if not, that's where I was going to live. I was going to sink right into the sofa, right into bed. And you go into that. And that's why you got to be really careful and you start blaming things. Comparison is a massive ego thing, because think of yourself in high school. Let's say you're 8th grade and all your friends have, okay, I'm going to date myself here. All your friends have Jordache jeans, right? Let's say Gucci now, I don't know, Jordache jeans, and you don't have Jordache jeans, but you're sitting in comparison and you're saying, well, I want Jordache jeans. I suck if I don't have Jordache jeans. Think about that. Think about being 8th grade. Stop comparing yourself. Stop going through that. Stop feeling envy. The moment you feel jealous of anybody, while we know is insecurity, we know is low self-esteem, it is your brat. I want that too. Well, how come they have it? Well, maybe work harder for it. That's right. Find out what is making them tick. Ask questions. If you see somebody in your mind that is successful, inquire. What are they doing? Are they being consistent? Well, don't say you don't want to do it. Well, don't ask them for the direction. They give you the direction and then you don't like the direction, right? It's like people say, well, I want to feel better, but they want to feel better how they want to feel better. I say that to people who come to me on a regular basis. I have clients all over the world. Don't come here think it's going to be fast. Like you and I are not going to get on Zoom. I'm good, but I'm not that good. It takes time. So if you want to come or go on Zoom or with me, or you want to go in front of somebody, it's not fast. So be careful of trying to go in with an idea, because if you could do it on your own, you'd have did it by now. And that's just a fact. So you have to understand that if you're in comparison and you're in envy, and if you have resentment towards others' success, that is your ego. That is your inner brat. If you cannot cheer for somebody else's success, your day to be cheered will never come. If you feel envy, if you are angry, if you hold resentment, if you now are holding back, you're like, I am just going to not come to garden. That is your brat. And know that that is heavily rooted in low self-esteem. And how you get confidence is doing the things you don't want to do, doing them often. Doing the things that scare you, doing the things that are uncomfortable, that causes discomfort. That is where you get confidence. You never build that first. And again, if you can't be happy for somebody's success, and if you can't stop the envy, that's where you focus. You focus on the comparison, because that's going to be the part that is triggering and driving your inner brat. And it could be a couple of things, but as you know what's driving that inner brat, now we can tame it, but you got to be willing to do the work. I'm telling you, if you're not willing to do the work and be consistent, you're not going to grow. I mean, that is the facts. So it's walking with it and saying, okay, I don't like it, but you're doing it anyway. Okay? Comfort zone preservation. Nothing on this planet grows in the comfort zone, ever. Hey, enjoy the comfort zone, nurture the things that are in the comfort zone, but nothing is going to grow there. Okay? If there is a resistance to risks, you are stuck in the victim mindset and you will have stagnation. If you're not willing to this is what I say, this is what I do all the time. If I go to another, matter of fact, me and some girlfriends in the summer, we're going to go to Harper's Ferry. I've never been to Harper's Ferry. We're going to do some whitewater rafting. We're going to do a few things. And then we're just going to go for a hike and we're just going to see where it leads us. You don't always have to have a plan. If you feel that you always have to have a plan, go to a city and walk around. Go down a street you've never been down and go shopping. Have an idea. Like, yeah, I'm going to go to Williamsburg. A few things I want to do. And the rest of the time, I'm just going to throw caution to the wind and just do what I got to do. Go to a big city with no plan. I'd like to hit this one museum and then I'm just going to walk around. Do that. Take those things where everything isn't always planned out for you. Take the risks of not being in control. Okay, so that's a big one. If you are stuck in the comfort zone, you will live there and you will stay in stagnation. So if you ever say to yourself, God, I feel stuck. I feel like I'm not growing, or I see everybody else around me growing but me. Why is it everybody else? Why am I disappointed because I can't do it because they can? Stagnation. None of that is taking accountability. None of that. What can you do today for your tomorrow self? And guess what? It might be something really small. Everything that you see in a pyramid, it's not just that top of the pyramid. It's every other, I'm going to call it a brick. It's not a brick, stone, whatever. It's every other rock, every other brick on there is just as important, but you're not getting to that top, and it is not going to be solid without this foundation. And I can promise you, even though I wasn't back in pyramid days, they didn't have certain tools that we have now. I'm pretty sure it took them a long time to build that. They showed up every day. They probably hurt themselves. They probably built it in the beginning, started, and it fell apart because they were like, oh, we need more of this mortar stuff. Trial and error. If you're not willing to fail, you're not willing to grow. If you're not willing to fail, that is your inner brat that needs to prove itself. Failure is spectacular. Failure must happen in order to have success. Anybody that you see that is deemed successful in your mind has had failure and multiple failures and will fail again. So if you're not willing to push that, then it's going to be a problem. You're never going to do anything. I mean, I always revert things back to crochet. Countless times I've spent hours and hours and hours on a project only to undo it because I was like, that did not work the way I wanted it to. I'm not mad at myself. I've learned more for the next time. You can't learn without failures. Without learning, there's stagnation. Seeking validation is a massive piece of your inner brat. Massive. If you are seeking validation, because in your mind, approval is bolstering your self-worth. You did a great job. I mean, it's nice to always hear if you've done well, but you don't need it. Because then you're going to rely upon it. And then if you don't get it, it's always going to feel as though you're not doing something correctly. You're not doing something that is beneficial and that is benefiting you. That's exactly what's going to come of that. Okay? And those are the things that you're going to have to come very clear in within yourself. Because seeking that approval from other people for your self-worth is always going to be detrimental to you, because it's always going to be giving somebody that level of power over you. And what do you need to do about that? Self-awareness. You got to be self-aware of when these things are happening. Got to be self-aware. And you got to challenge those thoughts. Why am I feeling this way? Oh, okay. This is my insecurity. This is me feeling insecure with low confidence. Don't judge it. You got to be empathetic to yourself. You got to carry a level of empathy for yourself that is going to give you that foundation of compassion. Oh, you're super compassionate with other people. Oh, it's okay. Get up and do that again. Oh, heaven forbid you give yourself compassion. If you, again, let me go back into that first one. You will never bully yourself into being, quote unquote, a better person. You will not bully yourself. You just show up. You don't think about it. You just show up. If you're going to decide you're going to start going to the gym, know your shortcomings. Embrace those shortcomings. If you know you're going to get up and if your clothes aren't ready and you got to dig in your drawer, you're not going to go, well, then lay it out the night before. If you know, in my case, the 5 journals, if they're downstairs, I'm less inclined to come down these steps. I'm going to get a little quote unquote lazy because I just don't feel like it, my inner brat. So I got to feed that inner brat by having a set upstairs. Oh yeah, sit in the corner because we have it now. You want to take your excuses away. You want to create a space for yourself to succeed that challenges that inner brat, that challenges those thoughts, that challenges the voice that says, I don't wanna. Don't care if you don't want to. Look how easy this is. You want to make your life easier by leaning into your shortcomings. And when you lean into your shortcomings, it now becomes a whole thing that your confidence comes in. Oh man, I didn't think I could do that. Oh, I don't usually like doing stuff like that. But look at me, I did it anyway. How many times have you not wanted to do something? Like, I really don't want to go to this party, or I really don't want to do this. And you get there and you're like, oh, I mean, look at me succeeding. Look at me. I did that. I did 2 loads of laundry I didn't want to do. But you know what? Now, tomorrow, I don't have to do them. Delayed gratification. So don't get mad at your inner brat. In the past, your inner brat has, quote unquote, benefited you because it kind of helped preserve it. But not every time it's going to do that. So you want to work on hearing your inner brat, accepting it, challenging it, and pushing through that discomfort, because quite frankly, if not, you're going to stay stuck and you're going to continue staying in victim mentality. Check it out.